Hey everybody, welcome back to Furniture Flipping Teacher. I'm Lauren, and in this video, I'm gonna be making over this $20 Goodwill find. It is a blonde mid-century piece of furniture, and I am so excited. These things are just a total blank slate. Let's get into the project. So yes, you heard that right. I got this for $20. The thrifting prices lately around me have been really, really good. I also got another dresser recently for $25, and it's like a triple dresser, super heavy Thomasville. Probably next week's video, so stay tuned for that. But are you kidding me? $20 for a solid dresser like this? Sign me up. First things first, I am gonna go ahead and remove this hardware. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be using it again and reinstalling it at the end. I just need to clean it up a little bit, maybe even paint it. But I don't know, what's your opinion? Let me know down below in the comments, because sometimes I like to keep the vintage hardware. Sometimes I like to switch it up. This one, I'm kind of going back and forth, but we'll see. It's time to move on to cleaning, but I have decided that I'm gonna strip the top two drawers. And since they have that curve, I think it's gonna be easier and in my best interest for ease of sanding later to actually strip this with stripper. So I don't need to clean these top two drawers, but I am gonna label them really quick, and then I'm gonna go ahead and apply the stripper so that way it can get to working while I'm working on the rest of the piece. So I just like to label the drawers so I know exactly where they go. I know these go in the top, but at least I'll know left or right. I have been really liking using the Green Easy stripper lately. It is really no harsh chemicals or caustic chemicals, so that makes me really love it since I am indoors and I don't have to wear a mask, I don't have to wear gloves, anything like that. So I just pour this on and spread it around liberally and then let it sit for 1 to 3 hours. You can kind of start to tell when it starts to work. So I am going to do just that. And I've never used it on a blonde finish before, so I'm kind of interested to see how it works. Blonde finishes can be pretty tough, so this shall be interesting. All right, so we'll come back and I'll be checking in on it in like 1 to 3 hours, see what's going on over here. But in the meantime, let's go back over to the main dresser and clean the whole thing. My next step is to modify the bottom here. So I don't love how it kind of is indented and this part sticks out. I want to make a new base for this piece to kind of modernize it and also just get rid of this situation. So there's some of it that is just connected with maybe some nails, and then there's some of it that's connected with some screws that I'll need to unscrew. So I'm not really sure where is connected with what, but we're just gonna go and bang around a little bit, because also I'm gonna be cutting the side off as well since it's all uneven. So let's see if this does anything. Oh, you know what? I see a screw. That is all of the connection points. Maybe this. So that's all the connection points with screws and stuff. So I will be grabbing my saw and sawing off the edge here, so that way we have a flat surface that then I can build a base with. Okay, I'm ready to go ahead and cut off the bottom of this dresser on both sides. So as you guys know, if you've seen my other videos, I like to go ahead and put some painter's tape on the line that I am going to be cutting. That's a really easy way to just get a straight line, and then also it helps with splintering, so the wood will kind of stay underneath the tape, so it is less likely to go all over and break apart. So I just need to figure out where I'm going to be cutting exactly. So I'm basically just noticing that the back board on this is about, I would say, a ½ inch, a ¼ inch lower than the bottom board on the front. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go with the flow of the front, and then it'll kind of cut through this back board, but then I'll just be able to cut that off and it'll be hidden by the new base anyway. So yeah, I think that's the move. So with that being said, I am pleased to announce that Craig is now not only making pocket hole jigs and track saws, they have recently come out with their brand new line of tools, and everything will be listed down below in the description. But they have, I don't remember how many it is, but like 8 or 10 new electric power tools, battery tools that they came out with. So this is the 4½ inch circular saw, which I am going to be utilizing on this cut. I think that if you're a little bit nervous to use a like 7½ or 10 inch circular saw, this is a perfect in the middle saw because it's basically handheld and it's not so big. You still got to be really careful, of course, because safety is the most important, but it's kind of fun to use a little bit of a smaller saw and tackle similar projects. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to be measuring, making sure that I am the right length across the whole board here. All right, that looks about right there. So here goes nothing. There we go. Side one done. Bada bing. So now that I've got the base all cut off, I did have to do a little bit of finagling. I did some countersunk screws in the sides here so that this was reinforced really, really well. So I'm gonna take some Bondo and fill in these holes, but then also there are a few areas that have some veneer chips and things like that that I wanna go ahead and fill in while I have the Bondo out. And that way, since our next step is to begin sanding, we can sand all of that smooth. So I've got my Bondo wood filler here, and then I've already got it put up on my little piece of cardboard, and I am going to put my cream hardener right there. Oops. Then once we start to mix that together, it will start to become hard, and the chemical reaction will make this as hard as a rock once it is finished. So I'm just gonna put this inside of these countersunk screws. Potentially might need more than one coat or more than one application of Bondo, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there if necessary. Lately, I've been using the Bin Advanced Synthetic Shellac Primer, and that way I can spray it, but I decided that today, for this piece, I'm gonna be using the Bin Regular. So this is actually shellac-based primer, not water-based. I would not recommend putting this in your sprayer, especially if you have an electric one, because it can like combust basically, because electricity and oil don't really match very well. So I'm gonna pour this in and I'm gonna roll it on. And the reason I'm choosing to do the oil-based is the Bin shellac gives a little bit more of a coating over the piece. And because I have so many different types of exposures on my piece of furniture, whether it be the finish or the raw wood or the Bondo, I want to make sure that it's all one coating before I move on to the paint. And I feel like the easiest way I can do this is with the shellac. So I'm gonna pour this into my little spray or roller bin and set this aside. And then I'm just gonna be able to roll it on super easily. Probably end up doing 2 coats of this just for full coverage. I told you with the circular saw, the 4.5-inch circular saw, Craig has came out with new power tools. And I also wanted to show you the new orbital sander that Craig has. And there is one feature that blows other budget-friendly orbital sanders out of the water. And if you know, you know, my other sander, the little vacuum part, always flies off. This one actually has a hook, so this cannot come off. It unlocks and locks, you just twist it into place. Game changer. You don't know how many times this flies off, gets dust everywhere. When I saw that feature on this, I could not be more happy. So if you're looking for a budget-friendly sander that's cordless, has this battery, check it out because it's so good. I'm gonna do a quick sanding on the whole entire dresser that I primed with a fine foam abrasive. Surf Prep has attachments for non-Surf Prep sanders, another note. So this is just a very fine grit, and it's gonna smooth everything out. Sometimes with rollers, you can get a little bit of texture, and if we want a smooth, flawless finish, this is the best way to get rid of that. Ready to paint this piece. The primer is all dry and smoothed out, and I am going to be using the Behr cabinet and door trim enamel in the color Carbon. I got this gallon a while back for some other projects, and I really love the color and the black that it truly is. Plus, this does not require a top coat, truly, and the recoat time on this is only 2 hours. I love that because sometimes enamels take 6 to 8 hours. There is a little bit of a cheaper urethane alkyd enamel at Home Depot by Behr, but the recoat time is 6 to 8 hours. So I decided that I would rather try this, pay a couple more dollars per gallon, and just be able to recoat it much quicker. So I'm gonna put this into my spray gun here. I need my strainer. All right, once that strains into the cup, I'm gonna get this all screwed back on, hooked up to my Wagner Flexio 5000, and spray coat 1. Got the first coat of paint all dry. Now I'm going to use my very fine rad pad. It's like a sponge sander, and it's probably about a 500 or 600 grit, and I am going to just go over the surface of this, make sure I'm knocking back any potential texture so that we've got the smoothest possible finish. While that second coat of paint is drying on the main dresser, I am gonna go ahead and do the stain on these top two drawers. They did end up cleaning up very nicely, and I'm really pleased with the way that they look. I could just leave them this raw color, but I just wanna add a little bit more of a tone of brownish, reddish to the surface, just to kind of help it offset the black quite a bit. So I am going to be using some mist from my mister bottle, get the surface ready. And then I've got my blue sponge here, and I am going to be using Lily Moon Paints Tennessee Whiskey in the Smoky Gel Stain, which is a water-based gel stain, and some of my go-to stains. They're just super easy to apply. You could apply them to an entire dresser. It kind of just depends on the look you're going for. Typically, I use them on just the top of something or just the drawers of something. And I've been liking oil-based for entire dressers, especially if I'm doing a full restoration. But I got this all shook up, so I'm just gonna apply some on here and spread it around with my sponge. I'm not trying to differentiate the color too much. This is a really pretty color of wood, and the wood grain is super pretty. So this is just gonna darken it up a tad bit here. I'm gonna make sure that I'm going all in the same direction, especially for my last pass, and making sure that there's no like streak marks or anything like that. You can also use a cloth to wipe back any excess, which is what I'm gonna do. I will let those dry, and they will need a top coat, so I'll put the top coat on once they're fully dry. Brought the dresser over here because it's time for me to measure for the base. And I got this really cool new tape measure that I'm gonna utilize, and it's really easy because it lets me store the measurements in the memory and all of that jazz. So I'll link it down below, and I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Again, when you're measuring for bases, you really only need to measure the front and then one of the sides, because chances are the sides are exactly the same. So this one is gonna be at 53 7/8, and that is stored in my memory now. Then for the side, we've got 19 7/32, so pretty precise there. And then of course, I want to make sure to remove 3 inches off of every measurement that I just did to account for the size of the legs. So I've got my red oak up here. Let's go ahead and get to measuring that out and cutting it so that we can start making this base, and this piece is gonna be done in no time. I've got all 7 of my pieces to my base here. And so now I get to go ahead and make some pocket holes. I'm gonna set the legs aside because I don't need to put any pocket holes in those. I am just gonna be putting pocket holes in the side pieces, 1 or 2 here, 2 here, and then some to attach it to the actual dresser. And then same with the long piece and the other side piece. Craig has also come out with a new drill set. I've got the drill, the regular drill, and then I've got the impact drill, which is really nice because they are, you know, more specifically geared towards drilling pocket holes. They have some really cool settings, but then also they can be used across different projects as well. I've got the Craig pocket hole jig here. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and pop these in and then make sure that we're all lined up for some even pocket holes, and we'll get to drilling. Okay, this side piece is finished. I'll do the same exact thing on this one that I did on this one on this one. I'm gonna do the same stain that I did on the drawers on the base so that we've got some matching colors going on here. So I'm just gonna spray. It might take a little bit differently just because it is different wood, but we'll be able to hopefully get it at least as close as possible. It's time to get the base on and attached here. So it lined up absolutely perfectly. I love the color that it turned out to be, and it matches the drawers really, really well. So now I am going to go ahead and use the same pocket holes I used to build the base to attach the base to the bottom. They're just pocket hole screws, and let's get this thing on. Let's take a look back at what we started with on this piece. It's a $20 drab mid-century piece that I found in a thrift store, and here it is now. It is a sleek, way more elegant and beautiful piece of furniture that is ready to live its new life. If I had to estimate, I would say that this piece was from like the 50s or 60s, which means that it's 60 to 75 years old, and I am so glad that I gave it a new life so that I can live 50 or 60 more years in the future before it maybe needs another refinish. I absolutely love the color combo of this piece. I think the curves just accentuate everything, and I'm really glad that I kept the original hardware. I kind of went back and forth whether or not I was going to keep that original hardware. I would have definitely had to change out the hardware and the hole placement if I didn't use these, but I'm really glad that I did because it keeps that true, authentic mid-century look, but still giving it a modern touch with everything else that is going on with the piece. So the numbers of this piece are pretty good actually, because the buy-in was so low at just $20. And then the one thing that cost probably the most on this piece was the wood to build the base. I got some extra wood, so I think the total was around $25 for the wood that I actually utilized on this base. So right there we're in at $45, and then the paint and the stain all in probably around about $75. And I'm really pleased with that because I'm planning to list this piece around $600, maybe $500. I'm really trying to get some of my pieces out the door right now, and truly pricing your pieces does depend on the room that you have, the quickness of how fast you want things to sell. You know, all of my pieces could be sold at a much lower cost and they would move a lot quicker. So I'm gonna start this one around that $600 mark, and I'll be willing to go down and negotiate a little bit, but I love the way that it looks. Let me know down in the comments what you think, if you would have done anything differently. I always love to know your take and your ideas and thoughts about the pieces that I do. Love this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be back next week with another furniture flip, and I'll see you on the flip side.